Hey, you're looking pretty today.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so today we're going to begin with the chapter called as reproductive health. Now, see, this chapter mainly revolves around the population explosion. Okay, other than that, the ways to combat the overpopulation, and mostly this chapter is about contraceptive and everything related to the reproductive aspect. Okay, so to begin with, let us talk about what is being reproductively healthy. See, being reproductively healthy means being healthy in terms of physical health, being healthy in terms of emotional, social, and behavioral health. Meaning, when the person is good in all sorts of field, then the person could be called as healthy in general. And being reproductively healthy means having a good, you can say, normal body structure, normal gametogenesis, and all of those things occurring. Now, what happens is that one of the major problem that is there in the world is actually overpopulation. Overpopulation, and can you tell me if there is a if there is population explosion, what is so bad that could happen because of it?
Ma'am, many factors such as lack of resources,
Hmm.
resources could go extinct and nothing could be left for future generations.
Yes. There would be lack of space to live, lack of food to eat, lack of clean air to breathe, and all sorts of things, right? So, in the year 1951, India initiated family planning under this program that is called as RCH, stands for Reproductive and Child Healthcare Program. See, in this chapter, you are going to see a lot of short forms which you should know the long form because they can directly give you like elongate these words. So RCH is the first one, so that is Reproductive and Child Healthcare Program. Now let us see what are the problems first and then the strategies of the reproductive health. The first and the most, you can say, the biggest problem ever, it is overpopulation. It is one of the major concern as far as the reproductive health is concerned. Now, obviously, if the population rises, there will be the shortage of resources, shortage of space to live, and clean air to breathe. So, what is the best thing to combat this? That is family planning so as to control. Obviously, no person can go killing the extra people that are there. It's not possible to do that, right? So, this problem could be assessed by family planning. Okay. Now, awareness about reproduction. This is like one of the most important, you can say, strategy to combat any problem related to the population is to make people aware about reproduction, right? So the youth, it needs to be aware about the like every single detail about the reproduction, the reproductive health, and awareness. How do we create awareness? It's like the awareness is created using the audio visual media. Then audio visual media means audio means the radio and the visual means the television. Other than that, there is print media that has the newspapers and magazines, the governmental agencies, and the non governmental agencies. So, with the help of all of them, people could be made aware. Now, you have also seen that if any new thing gets released in the market, any product or anything, they put an ad about it, right? And when we
Yes.
as consumers, when we see the ad, if the ad is very catchy, very nice, so we are tempted to buy that thing for us, isn't it? It has that influence
Yes.
on us that, for example, a few days ago, I only saw this ad about lip balms. They were like very like different flavored lip balms and tinted lip balms and all, and I was so influenced to buy it. So that's the influence or that's the power that media and advertisement has on us. So same way, if things are made aware about the reproduction, then people will also be aware about it, right? They will remember because what do people do in like advertisement or awareness? They create some punchline, isn't it? They create something
Yes.
fun out of it so that people remember. Have you been to India in a while?
Not
Hmm.
since the past 2 years.
Not since the past 2 years. So, like before 2 years, did you see that garbage collection van that comes? Are you like, do
Um,
you have any knowledge about that?
no,
No.
but I've seen that in movies.
No, 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 not the movies one. See, here in India, there is like a garbage collection van that that plays a song when it comes. Okay, that plays a song every single day, and it's so loud. It's so loud that every single home gets notified that okay, it is there. And now instead of throwing garbage on the road, people go to that particular van, like they come out of their houses and give it to them. So their song is so catchy. You might have heard about it on. You might have seen here. It's like "Gaadi wala aaya, ghar se kachra nikal." You might have heard about it. So it's like it's so
Mm.
catchy, and they use it in a song version. So that is why media and the influence the ad or awareness campaigns could have is massive. Other than that, if you remove all the awareness, then the awareness comes from home, isn't it? Parents are the first one to aware the child, then relatives in very less cases, and then teachers, right? So they are there for the child or the youth to be aware or to be made to, you can say provide necessary awareness about the reproduction related topic. Then the next is sex education. Now, sex education is like it is encouraged to be done in schools so as to introduce the male and the female youth about their body parts, right? About how what is right, what is wrong, what are the myths, what are the misconceptions, and everything related to the sex that are there. People should be made aware about. Not just it's not they're not talking about just the sexual intercourse. They're talking about male and female bodies, what changes it goes through, how to combat that, and everything. Then knowledge about the sexually transmitted diseases and the sex organs. So again, knowledge could be made given to people. Then to talk about the birth control devices. Also, prenatal and postnatal care of mother and baby. Prenatal is all that time period for which the baby hasn't been born yet. And postnatal is when after the baby has been born, how to take care of the baby and how to take care of the mother. That knowledge should also be, sent to people. Then prevention of sex abuse and sex related crimes, information about problems like infertility. And the this one is very, very important. That is the knowledge about amniocentesis. What is amniocentesis? See, this is a medical, you can say, method wherein the fetal sex determination and fetal disorder determination could be done. Meaning, when the female is pregnant, then the baby that she is carrying, the fetus that she is carrying, whether the fetus has any chromosomal disorder, that could be tested using this process called as amniocentesis. And how is it done? It is done using the, you can say, amniotic fluid and studying the chromosomal pattern in the amniotic fluid. Okay, so that is
Ma'am, what
study.
is amniotic fluid?
Amniotic fluid is the fluid that is filled in the placenta in which the baby is present. Okay, so when they inject, like with the help of injection, they take that fluid out and then they test it for the chromosomal pattern. Which chromosome is there, which chromosome is maybe missing or not. And with that, they can find out any kind of disorder. Other than that, they can also find out the sex of the baby, whether the baby is male or female, that could also be found. Now, this is a normal process, nothing so bad about it. It's good only. But in India, this was misused. Why? Because when like people went for this amniocentesis to know the disorders and everything and to know the sex, so when they got to know that it was a boy, it was perfect. But as soon as they got to know that the child is female, then all hell came loose. And what used to happen? They used to get that female fetus aborted. Imagine. So as soon as they found out that the female, like the fetus was female, it was a girl child, they had them medically removed from the mother's body. So that is the misuse of amniocentesis. And the killing of the fetus, that is called as female feticide. So what used to happen? It is being misused to know the sex of the baby, being followed by medical termination of the fetus if it is found out to be a female. And this killing of the female fetus is called as female feticide. Okay? Feticide means fetus killing. So female fetus killing, this is done. That is why in India now amniocentesis is banned. It's like no, like even though this thing gynecologist does this amniocentesis, they are not at liberty to tell the sex of the baby to the parents. It's not allowed anymore. Okay, or else her or his.
Ma'am, the gynec only like checks if there is a disorder or no.
See, if she'll check the disorder, she'll see the whole entire chromosomal pattern. And being a male child, being a female child, that is also represented by chromosomes only. So she could study that also. So the gynecologist knows, but she is not at liberty to tell the parent. Or else her medical license will be taken from her. So it's like not banned, sorry, it's not allowed in India. Now, after that, there comes the different measures to control the overpopulation problem. The first thing, I think this is the solution to almost all the problems in the world, that is education. You educate a person, you solve half of the problem in the world. So, education is very, very important, be it normal education and be it sex education. People need to be aware of the things, right? And they should know the benefits of having a smaller family. Usually, what happens in that, like the people that live in the villages or in the rural areas, they think that if they'll have more kids, they'll have more helping hands, isn't it? But they forget that in order for the kids to help them, they have to help the kids to get bigger inside, to get older, right? So for 18 years or 16 years, they have to feed that baby, take care of that baby, and send him to school, buy clothes and stuff, and they are poor and they can't do that, right? So the benefits of small family is smaller family, lesser people to look after, and with even less amount of money, it can be done easily. And at that same time, this slogan was also launched, that was Hum Do Hamare Do, that says that we two and our two kids. Okay, so it's like two child policy is very much favored, and other than that, many couples, they have one child policy as well. Are you a single child or do you have siblings?
Ma'am, I have a younger sister.
You have a younger sister. Okay. So, like that, so many couples, they have one child policy also. Mostly it's hum do hamare do. Clear? Now, the second thing is that the marriageable age, it should be raised. Meaning, for females, the marriageable age should be 18, and for males, it should be 21. But I think it should be more for females, higher than males, right? Because if you take a female, now females are only the ones that will carry the generation forward, isn't it? So if the female is, like married a little later than this, then she will give birth a little later, isn't it? When she will be healthy and she'll have a healthy mindset also and all of that. So marriageable age, this is what NCRT says. Apart from that,
Ma'am, why is female's age less than male?
mm, because females, they mature early as compared to males, and females, they have a set of oogonia that they are born with, right? And they degenerate. That is why it is lesser for females, so that she could be married, she could get, like, she could, you can say, reproduce earlier. Whereas males, there's no problem. They reproduce all their life, right? Spermatogenesis happens all their life.
Yes.
Now, after that, incentives. Incentives could be given to the people that have smaller families so as to encourage them to not have bigger family. And lastly, there is family planning.
Ma'am, what
Yeah?
is incentives?
Incentive is like how jobs have incentives that this much target is done, then they get paid a little extra, like that.
Bonus?
Yeah, sort of like a bonus. Okay. Then there is family planning, wherein if they have planned to have few children, then they can space out the age differences. Like if a female had a child and now that child has become, like, right now only the child is born. Now after 6 months or so, now she will be able to reproduce again. But so as to avoid that, because the baby is right now 6 months only and another one will arrive. So that will be like two very small kids and it will be very difficult. So family planning is to space out the children so that when the first child becomes 5 years old, then to have the second child and third and so on. Clear? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No. After that, there comes the various reasons for overpopulation. First
Ma'am,
is,
I'll write down.
you want to write down?
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, done. Ma'am, done. Ma'am, done, ma'am. Ma'am, done. Ma'am, done. Ma'am, done. I'm done.
All right, any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now we're going to see the various reasons for the overpopulation. Like, why is it happening? So first of all, the decrease in the death rate, meaning mortality. When mortality decreases, means no one is dying, then the population will increase only. Now, this death rate could be in two ways: maternal mortality rate and fetal mortality rate. Okay. Now, the decrease in the death rate means none of the individuals that are being added to the face of the earth, none of them are dying. Like everyone is healthy, everyone is alive, and they are continuing to stay alive. So that is decrease in the death rate. Now, this death rate could be maternal mortality rate, that is MMR, and fetal mortality rate, that is FMR. Maternal mortality rate means the death rate of the female, the mother that gives birth to the child. Whereas fetal mortality rate refers to the fetus that is being born. Clear?
Ma'am, maternal mortality rate refers to mother dying or
Hmm.
mother being alive.
Mortality. Mortality means dead. Death rate. Okay. And the opposite, see, many a times in the question, you can find the opposite. So opposite of mortality is natality, meaning this is the birth rate. Okay, in simple terms, it is the birth rate, even though they'll not ask you this thing, but I am just saying so that you should know. And also, if the birth rate, oh, it's written over here. If the birth rate increases, that is natality, right? So, if the birth rate is increasing, meaning more and more people are being added up, and death rate is decreasing, means no one is dying. So, in that case, the population will increase only. Getting my point?
Ma'am,
It's
can
very
you
cruel.
explain decrease in death rate again because it's kind of confusing with birth rate.
Birth rate is the number of people that are born per year or per like that. Per day, per year, per month. That is the birth rate. If the number of people that are being born increases and the number of people that are dying decreases, then obviously the population will increase, isn't it? Meaning
Yes, ma'am.
more and more people are being added and less number of people are being like are dying or they are not dead. So that is the reason for the overpopulation all in all. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, MMR and FMR are low in this case because it says decrease.
Yeah, it will be low because if the MMR or the FMR increases, then that would means that population will be controlled, isn't it?
Hmm.
Hmm. Now, this was like see these up until now, whatever you've studied is not what the chapter is for. Okay, it's all just a little peripheral knowledge from which you can get asked one or two questions max. Mostly, or you never know, maybe they can focus on the overpopulation and ask more questions, but in my opinion, they shouldn't because the chapter mainly revolves around from now on. So the methods of the birth control, which we call as contraception. Now, contraception refers to all those kinds of methods wherein the birth could be controlled, the conceiving could be controlled, fertilization could be controlled. Clear? So this is like a way to combat the overpopulation problem that there is. Now, the devices or the things or anything of that sort that will be used as a contraception, we call it as contraceptive. Okay, it is a thing. So now let us see if there is a contraceptive present. Let us see what are the characteristics of the ideal contraceptives. First of all, whichever contraceptive it is, it should be user friendly. Okay, user friendly means whoever is using it should be able to use it on his or her own. Okay. Second, it should have no side effects. That, okay, if a person is using something externally, he or she should have no visible side effects. Reversible. Now, see, these contraceptives, they could be reversible. They should be reversible because maybe, let's just say, for 2 to 3 years, the couple doesn't want to have kids, so they will use the contraceptive. But once they decide that, okay, now we want to have another kid or we want to increase the number of children in the family, now they can reverse the contraceptive so that they can conceive whenever they want to. And lastly, whichever contraceptive it is and whichever type of contraception it is providing, that should be completely effective. Okay, it should be effective. After that, there comes the various methods of contraceptions. The first method is the natural method. Then there is barrier method, chemical method, intrauterine devices, oral contraceptives, injectables, implants, and lastly, surgical method. All of these methods we're going to study one by one. Okay. So the first method of contraception is natural. Natural means nothing of the, you can say, artificial things or anything from the outside will not be used in this method. Okay. This is when a person completely relies on the human body and let it do the contraception. How? The first natural method of contraception is uh, periodic abstinence. Periodic, you means like it occurs at a regular interval of time. That is periodic. Abstinence means to stop some, to avoid some. Okay, to avoid actually. Now, how? See, this periodic abstinence, it has another name for it, which is rhythm method. Okay, rhythm method. Now, see, in this type of contraceptive method, there is like the coitus or the sexual intercourse is avoided during the day 10 to day 17 of the menstrual cycle. Why? Because this is the time period for which the ovulation would happen, right? Ovulation will take place at day 14. So when the ovulation will happen, at that time, it will be very, very, like you can say, more chances will be there for the fertilization to occur because at that time, you can call that time as the fertile period of female. So if the coitus is avoided for that much like period of time, then the conceiving of the fetus should be also avoided. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is periodic abstinence or rhythm method. After that, there comes withdrawal method, which is also called as coitus interruptus. The name only suggests coitus interruptus, meaning the coitus is being interrupted. How? See, in this, right before the male is about to ejaculate, the male will withdraw the penis out of the vaginal passage so that the sperm that are to be released, they won't be released inside the female's reproductive tract. And this will prevent the fertilization to take place. That is withdrawal method. After that, there comes lactational amenorrhea. Lactational, now the word lactation refers to the time period for which the female is lactating, meaning breastfeeding. So, and amenorrhea means there is no menstruation happening. So, once the female has given birth, okay, she has like this time period for which there will be no menstrual cycle taking place when she has like she is in the period of intense lactation. So, amenorrhea, it refers to the absence of the menstruation during the period of intense lactation. And this is effective only up until the 6 months. Like for 6 months, the female might not have her menstruation. So, in that case, if a person has coitus, then they will, like, it's very less likely that they can get pregnant. Clear? So, these three methods are the natural methods wherein there is no involvement of anything externally. But the natural methods, they do not require any device, any medicine, anything. And the best thing is that it has no side effect. But again, the downfall is that it is not effective. You cannot rely on your calculation that this is day 10, this is day 14. No one knows. It could vary according to the cycle. So this is not a 100% reliable method, but it is the method that has no side effects whatsoever. Clear?
Yes.
The second kind of the contraceptive method is the barrier. Now, barrier means to something like to stop something from physically going anywhere. So, it is the process by which the sperm and the ovum, they are not allowed to meet physically. Okay, how? It is done with the help of some things that are worn. For example, a condom. So this is a tube-like latex sheath that is worn on the male's copulatory organ, meaning it is worn on the penis. And so whenever the male would ejaculate, the sperm will get collected in the condom instead of going into the reproductive tract of the female. And apart from this, Meaning, apart from preventing the fertilization, if you think about it, the male copulatory organ is completely covered with the condom. So now it also, like, the copulatory organ of the male and copulatory organ of the female, it's not actually touching. There's a barrier in between them. So it will prevent fertilization as well as it will prevent the sexually transmitted diseases. Clear? Then a common brand of condom is Nirod according to NCRT, and female condoms are also available, but they have a different mechanism to be worn. Other than that, for the females, there are some other barriers such as diaphragm, cervical cap, and warts. Now, these are worn by the females. Okay, and what they do is that they cover the cervix and they are reusable. So it's like the device that is used or like that is worn by the female, and it covers the cervical area because the sperm passes the vagina, then goes into the cervix, and then goes into the fallopian tube, right? But here the cervix is covered, so the sperm would not travel. But since the vagina is not covered, that is exposed, so this will prevent fertilization, but it doesn't guarantee preventing STD, isn't it? Because the vaginal passage is more than enough to contract the sexually transmitted pathogens and stuff. Clear?
Ma'am, it should prevent both, right?
No. How? How is it? How should it prevent both?
Ma'am, so the cervix, only
Hmm.
the cervix is being covered.
Yeah. So since the cervix is being covered, the vagina is still open. Right? It is, imagine it is
Yes.
worn very much inside. So the vaginal passage is open, and if the vaginal passage, the fluids over there gets mixed with the fluid of the male's copulatory organ, then the STD wouldn't happen. But yes, we can say that the fertilization. Clear?
Yeah.
After that, there is the chemical method, meaning when a person is using barriers, so they can increase the effectiveness of those barriers by using some spermicidal cream, jellies, and foams. Spermicidal means, sidal means killing. So spermy refers to the sperm, sidal means killing. So sperm killing creams are there, jellies are there that could be applied to that area so that whatever sperms would come, they will die. That is a chemical method, and it is used along with the barriers to increase the barriers effectiveness. Clear?
Ma'am, is it effective?
Yeah. It will increase the effectiveness of the barrier. Then comes the intrauterine devices. Now, now see, they are very important. Many questions are asked from this. So here, what happens is that IUDs, these are devices. Okay, they are tiny device, which sort of looks like this. You might have seen this in your NCRT. It looks like a T.
Yes.
This is an IUD. It doesn't necessarily looks like this. It looks like this also. But what happens is that this is the device that are inserted into the uterus. Okay, into the uterus through the vagina. Now this obviously no one can do it on their own. So this is done with the help of a doctor, obviously. And now these IUDs, they are different types of IUDs present, and different types of IUDs have different types of function. For example, IUDs mostly is of three types: non-medicated, copper releasing, hormone release. First one is non-medicated, so it doesn't release any kind of medicine, it doesn't release any kind of hormone, nothing. Okay, example for a non-medicated IUD is Nippy's loop. What it does is that it increases the phagocytosis within the uterus. Phagocytosis is, do you know anything about phagocytosis?
Ma'am, sperm killing.
That's true. But see, phagocytosis is not just for killing the sperm. It is a normal mechanism of our body kill any foreign part. Okay. So there are certain cells in our body like macrophage and all of that. So they go and they sort of engulf the particle and then digest it. That is phagocytosis. So this increases as soon as the sperms enter the uterus, they will increase the phagocytosis. Clear? Which will
Ma'am,
thereby
how do this IUD work? Like, do they capture the fluid? or what do they
No,
do?
no, no. They alter the, or you can say they, because it is a foreign object in the body, so it will increase our body cells to do more phagocytosis. Sort of like alert our body cells, our blood cells to do the process of phagocytosis. Clear?
So, ma'am, the fluid won't go away. It's just phagocytosis is being
It's killing
increased.
it. It's coming, but it's killing it. And it is effective. Then comes the copper releasing. So the example of the copper releasing IUD is copper 7, copper T, and multi-load 375. Now this copper releasing IUD, what it does is that it suppresses the sperm motility. You know that the sperms have to be very, very motile in order to swim to the ova. So it
Yes.
suppresses that. It decreases their motility with the help of the copper it releases. And other than that, it also decreases the fertilizing capacity of the sperm. So even if the sperm would reach the ova, it will not be able to fertilize it. Clear?
So, ma'am, it makes defects in the sperm.
Yes. It makes the sperm lose its speed, lose its this thing, fertilizing capacity, all of that. And then comes the hormone releasing IUD, such as LNG20 and progestasert. Now, what it does is that it doesn't attack the sperm. Instead, it makes the uterus unsuitable or unfit for implantation. So, even if fertilization took place, the zygote could not actually attach because the uterus is made unfit for implantation.
Ma'am, unfit for implantation, does it means continuous menstruation because that time its endometrial lining is shedding?
Other than that, it means that the endometrial lining will not be thick enough. It will not have enough blood vessels around it, like that.
So, ma'am, does this affect the menstrual cycle?
Yeah,
Yes.
it does. And then, other than that, it makes the cervix hostile. Hostile means very unfit again, yet again. The cervical mucus will be thickened. It will not let the sperm pass. This is what it does. The examples of each of the different types of IUDs are extremely important. And IUDs are the most accepted method of contraception in India. Okay, it's very effective with very less amount of side effects and it is reversible.
Yes,
After
ma'am.
that, there comes the oral contraceptives that are also called as the pills. So these are the tablets or the pills that contains the synthetic form of hormones. Okay, so the synthetic form of progesterone is progestrogen or progestin, and the synthetic form of like normal estrogen is also there. So the synthetic form of the hormones, they are taken in the form of pills, which will alter the you can say the mucus cavity, or it will alter the endometrial lining, because of which fertilization couldn't take.
Ma'am, this
Now,
is only given to female.
yes, definitely. Obviously, female only. Why? Because in the female's body only the fertilization happens. Now, the pills, they are taken for 21 days, starting within the first 5 days of the menstrual cycle. Meaning, after the periods are over, then this pill is taken for 21 days. Now, during the time of menses, okay, during the time of periods, the pill is not taken, and that is the gap of 7 days. But after 7 days, when the periods are over, it has to be repeated again. Yeah? And these pills should
Ma'am, but if you're constantly taking these pills and these pills are altering your endometrial lining, then how can it bring back the normal flow of menstruation then?
See, it's not actually altering it. See, what it does is that these pills, they sometimes inhibit ovulation from taking place. Okay, they make the cervical mucus thicker so that the sperms will get caught over there and not be able to swim. They do all of these things, and they, like with the pills, the menstrual, like the periods and all, everything comes. The endometrial lining sheds also, but it's just synthetic hormones that are there. Okay. So, what are the functions of the oral pills? It inhibits ovulation, it inhibits implantation, it alters the quality of cervical mucus, meaning it changes the quality, it makes it thick so as to prevent or retard the sperm entry, slow down the sperm. Okay, and they are very effective and they have very less amount of side effects because they are hormone combinations. Then comes this example, that is Saheli. It is the name of a drug that is non-steroidal pill. Okay, it is once a week pill. Non-steroidal means it doesn't have any hormonal like steroid hormone combination, and it has very few side effects, but it is highly, you can say, successful in providing contraception. Okay, this one example is given. And where was it developed? It was developed in Lucknow in CDRI, that is Central Drug Research Institute. Do you see how many short forms are coming? So CDRI, that is Central Drug Research Institute. Then there comes injections and implants. Now they are also like the shots of synthetic hormones that are given to the female every single month. Okay, and injections are that. Implants are the devices that are placed subdermally. Subdermally means under the skin. So sort of like how if you take a pin and you pierce it through your hand, like that. So subdermally, meaning under the skin it is placed for providing long-term contraception. And
Ma'am,
these,
how is it placed under the skin? Like, is it injected and it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
there?
You see that the picture, I think it's given in your NCRT also. Beside that IUD, there is a picture of implant also.
Ma'am, I'll write down.
Wait, let me complete the contraceptive, then you the little more. Okay. So this was implant, okay, and it provides the long-term contraception. Now comes emergency contraceptives. What are emergency contraceptives? So let's just say a couple had unprotected sex, or maybe they missed a pill. They were taking contraceptive, but they missed the pill. Or in the case of sexual assault, in the case of rape cases, right? So in that case, there is more chances or more risk of pregnancy. So for that emergency, the progestogen or the progestogen estrogen combination pills are taken, or intrauterine device is you can say installed within 72 hours of unprotected sex. Okay, within 72 hours these pills have to be taken, or either the IUD has to be inserted, then the pregnancy could be avoided. But if it has passed 72 hours, then it will be not affected. Clear?
Yeah.
Now comes the last method of contraceptive, and this is surgical method, which is the permanent method of contraception. Okay, it is also many a times called as sterilization. Now, this is the terminal method of family planning. Now, here, male and female both can undergo, or even one of the partners could undergo. What happens? In the case of males, vasectomy happens. Vasectomy means the vas deferens is cut and then tied up. That is vasectomy. In the case of females, the fallopian tube, they are snipped and then they are tied up. And with the help of these particular methods, surgical method, the gametes will be formed, but the gametes will not be transferred. So conception will not happen. So surgical
Ma'am,
method,
so in the
hmm,
case of female, they won't have menstruation?
no, they won't.
No?
Because see, first thing is that the fallopian tubes are cut and they are tied up, isn't it? So the eggs will not descend that way, but they will have ovulation done because the eggs will release every single month. But yeah, you can say the menstruation will happen because the egg is releasing, and the hormonal, you can say LH surge and everything will happen. The endometrial lining will wait for it and then it will be shed off. So menstrual will happen, menstrual cycle, but not the conceiving. Implantation will not. Now, surgical method, it has a high contraceptive value. It's very much assured, but the reversibility is the poorest of all, right? Now, if a person wants to have a child now, they'd have to reverse the surgery, which is very, very difficult, and many a times it's not possible. So
So,
when a
ma'am,
person,
they have to sign a contract before going under
I
surgery?
I don't know. Maybe they do, but it is like they know that this is the permanent method. Right? Once they do not want to have kids at all, then a person or a couple should undergo this method. It's like a terminal method. There's no going back from this. Okay. Now, some of the side effects of the contraceptives could be nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough bleeding, irregular menstrual cycle, and in advanced or severe condition, breast cancer could also happen. These are the possible side effects. Clear?
Ma'am, what is breakthrough bleeding?
It's like spotting. Sometimes they will bleed. It won't be menstrual cycle, but bleeding would appear like that. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So with this, we have actually completed the contraceptive part.
I'm done. Ma'am, done.
Done, Praneet? Yes, done, Praneet?
Yes, ma'am.
Done?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, done. Ma'am, done.